Welcome to Armstrongism Investigated. Today we uncover Herbert Armstrong's wacky belief in pyramidology. Stay tuned as we explore the curious connections he claimed between ancient pyramids and prophecy.
Welcome, everyone. Get ready to dive into some, well, let's just say, interesting religious history today.
Sounds intriguing.
Oh, it is. We're talking about Armstrongism and its founder, Herbert W. Armstrong. Specifically, his fascination with pyramids. Not your typical ancient Egypt stuff, though.
Yeah, pyramids are usually associated with pharaohs and curses, right?
Right. But Armstrong, he saw something else. Something prophetic in those stone giants.
He believed they held hidden messages, kind of like a blueprint predicting the future, all encoded in those measurements and angles.
They're called pyramidology, right?
Yep, pyramidology. And honestly, most scholars, archaeologists, theologians, they see it as, well, pseudoscience, lacking any real historical or scientific backing.
So not exactly a widely accepted theory, then?
Not really, no. But Armstrong, he was convinced these pyramids were like giant stone calendars ticking away towards the end of the world.
And this pyramidology led him to set a date for Christ's second coming, didn't it?
Exactly. 1936. He declared that was the year. And get this, he basically lifted that date straight from another pyramidologist, David Davidson.
No, so it's for divine revelation, huh? Wait, it's even wilder. He also taught that the biblical Job, the guy who suffered all those trials, he claimed Job was the architect of the Great Pyramid. Where did he even get that idea?
That's where his other pet belief comes in. British Israelism.
British Israelism? What's that?
It's this theory that the British people are the direct descendants of the lost tribes of Israel, destined to, you guessed it, rule the world.
Okay, now my head's spinning.
Yeah.
Pyramids predicting the future, Job is a pyramid architect, and the British are secretly the chosen people.
You're catching on. And this is where we start to see Armstrong straying pretty far from mainstream Christian thought, like way far.
Yeah, my pastor never mentioned pyramids during Sunday school.
Right. It's definitely not your typical sermon material. Christian orthodoxy doesn't exactly embrace pyramids as prophecy tools or Job as a master builder.
It's all a bit, out there.
To put it mildly. And it's important to remember, Armstrong's teachings weren't just a little different. They actually contradict some very basic Christian beliefs.
Like how?
Well, Christianity is pretty clear. Salvation comes through grace, through faith in Jesus Christ, not decoding secret messages in pyramids.
Right. Pyramids and salvation don't exactly go hand in hand.
Not quite. This mixing and matching of different beliefs is called syncretism, blending various religious or philosophical ideas. And, well, Armstrong's teachings are a prime example.
He's got pyramidology, British Israelism. It's a lot.
Oh, it is. He even borrowed ideas from groups like the Jehovah's Witnesses, all while claiming to have the only true interpretation of the Bible.
Speaking of Jehovah's Witnesses, didn't they also have a thing for pyramids and prophecies?
Actually, yeah. Their founder, Charles Taze Russell, was a big fan of pyramidology, used it to set his own prophetic dates, in fact. But here's the kicker. Today, Jehovah's Witnesses denounce pyramidology as satanic.
Wait, seriously? They denounce it, but their doctrines are based on dates from those pyramid calculations. Yep. Pretty ironic, right?
That's wild. So 1936 rolls around, and obviously the world doesn't end. What happened to Armstrong's followers? Did they just walk away?
What?
Or is there more to the story?
Oh, there's definitely more. You'd think so, right? But most of them, they didn't.
Really? They stuck around even after the world didn't end in 36?
Yeah, it's a pattern you see with these, well, self-proclaimed prophets and doomsday cults.
What do you mean?
When their predictions fail, they don't admit they were wrong.
What's what they do?
They reinterpret things, come up with new explanations. They shift the goalposts to keep their followers on the hook.
So basically, they make it up as they go along.
Kind of, yeah.
Yeah.
And Armstrong, he was a master at it. He'd weave in these complicated biblical passages, historical events, you name it.
And more pyramids, probably.
Oh, always more pyramids. All to explain why the world hadn't ended,
It's amazing how people buy into that.
Right. But it's psychology, too, These groups, they create this intense sense of community, this us versus them mentality. So they convince their followers that they're the special ones, the chosen few who really get it.
Exactly. The outside world is full of evil and lies, and only they have the truth. Doubts. You just got to push those down, you see.
It's like a reality bubble.
It is. And it's tough to break out of, even when things start falling apart.
Because they've already invested so much. Time, emotion, sometimes even money.
It's the sunk cost fallacy, right? You put so much in, you don't want to admit you were wrong.
Makes sense. So how did Armstrongism move away from pyramidology then? They couldn't keep using those prophecies forever, could they?
They did eventually downplay it, though not completely.
What do you mean?
They still believed Job built the Great Pyramid, but they kind of backpedaled on the whole prophecy part.
So they were picking and choosing what to believe.
It seems that way, doesn't it? Might have been a way to, seem more mainstream, maybe, gain some credibility.
Yeah, hardcore pyramidology isn't exactly a winning recruitment strategy.
Probably not. It's like trying to hide a giant elephant in a tiny room.
You can try, but
it's still going to be there, right? So they needed something a little more palatable, even if it was still outside traditional Christian thought.
And British Israelism fit the bill.
It had those ties to biblical history, lineage, all that, maybe seemed more, acceptable, even if it was still unorthodox.
Fascinating how they try to balance these outlandish claims with, a sense of legitimacy.
It's almost like marketing, trying to make the unbelievable seem believable. And, religion is about persuasion, isn't it?
Presenting a narrative that resonates with people.
Exactly. And Armstrong, he was selling a specific vision of the future, blending biblical interpretation, British Israelism, and a little sprinkle of pyramid magic, even if they tried to hide it later.
And it resonated with people, even with all the contradictions and failed prophecies.
It did. I think part of it is the apocalyptic element, this idea that the world is ending soon, that they've got the secret knowledge to survive.
It's always doom and gloom, but people love a good end-of-the-world story, right?
They do. The problem is those predictions, they rarely come true. And when they don't, it can lead to some serious disappointment,
Yeah, I can imagine. We've been focusing a lot on Armstrong and his specific beliefs, but it seems like this whole pyramid prophecy fascination goes beyond just him, doesn't it?
Oh, absolutely. And you mentioned the connection to Christian identity earlier.
Right. The source talked about that. It's a much darker path.
It really is. Christian identity takes British Israelism to a whole other level.
How so?
It's straight up racist and anti-Semitic. They believe white Europeans are the real chosen people, the true Israelites. And get this, they see Jewish people as descendants of Satan.
Descendants of Satan. Now, come on, that's just...
I know, right? It sounds ridiculous. But these beliefs, they're not harmless,
What do you mean?
Christian identity has inspired hate groups, extremist individuals, real-world violence, and terrorism even.
So we're not just talking about crazy theories here. These beliefs have real consequences.
They absolutely do. And it goes back to what we've been talking about. Critical thinking is so important. We need to be able to see through these harmful ideologies, especially when they hide behind religion.
Well said. So it seems like this rabbit hole goes even deeper than we thought. And it's getting pretty dark down here.
It is. Unfortunately, we're out of time for today's deep dive.
All right, well, this has been quite a journey so far, exploring Armstrongism, pyramids, prophecies, chosen people.
It has been. And next time, we'll delve even deeper into this connection between Armstrongism, British Israelism, and the rise of Christian identity.
Stay tuned, folks. Things are about to get even more interesting, and maybe a little unsettling. Welcome back. Ready for more on Armstrongism? I know it's a lot to take in. Pyramids, prophecies, chosen people.
It's a wild ride for sure. So last time we left off with Armstrong's interesting blend of beliefs.
Right. Pyramidology, that whole thing with the pyramids predicting the future.
Yeah, and how he used that to set a date for Christ's return in 1936, which obviously
didn't happen.
Nope. But his followers, they mostly stuck around. He was pretty good at reinterpreting things when his prophecies flopped. Then there's the whole British Israelism thing.
Oh yeah, that was a doozy. The belief that the British are the true descendants of the lost tribes of Israel, destined to rule the world.
And how Armstrong claimed Job, the guy from the Bible, built the Great Pyramid as some sort of monument to their future glory.
Right. And all of that really clashes with what most Christians believe.
Yeah, it's pretty far from Christian orthodoxy. Salvation through grace, faith in Jesus. The basics.
Armstrong's version is more like, decode the pyramids and you'll be saved.
Something like that. It's a big old mix of different beliefs. Syncretism, remember?
Oh yeah, I remember.
Yeah.
But we're here to talk about Christian identity, right? That's connected to all this somehow.
It is. And it's where things get, a lot darker.
Darker how?
Well, Christian identity takes the whole British Israelism thing and twists it, see? It becomes really racist and anti-Semitic.
Okay, so less about British world domination and more about...
Yeah, more about white supremacy. They believe that white Europeans are the true chosen people, the real Israelites.
And the Jewish people.
They see them as, and this is disturbing, descendants of Satan.
Wow.
I know, it's messed up. And it's not just some crazy theory either. These beliefs have actually led to violence, terrorism, all sorts of awful stuff.
So it's not just harmless nonsense.
Well, not at all. And it's important to remember Armstrong, he might not have explicitly endorsed Christian identity,
Right.
but his teachings, they laid some groundwork for it, you know? This whole us versus them mentality, the focus on a chosen people, it creates fertile ground for those more hateful ideas to take root.
So even if he didn't intend to promote racism and anti-Semitism,
Potential was there. And that's why it's so crucial to be critical, you know, of any belief system, really, especially ones that claim to have all the answers or try to divide people.
well said. It's been quite the journey exploring the world of Armstrongism.
It has. Pyramids, prophecies, chosen people. It's a lot.
It really is. And it's a reminder that we all need to think critically, question things, and be careful about what we choose to believe.
Absolutely. Because even seemingly out there ideas, they can have a real impact on the world, sometimes a very negative one.
Thank you for joining us today on this deep dive. It's been, well, let's just say enlightening. Until next time, stay curious and keep questioning everything.
Thanks for joining us on Armstrongism Investigated. We hope you enjoyed our deep dive into Herbert Armstrong's fascination with pyramidology. Don't forget to subscribe and join us next time for more intriguing investigations.